Good evening, everybody. Let's get started here in a minute. Let me turn, looks like my volume's a little high here. There we go. We'll get started in just a minute here. We are going to wait to see how many people show up, and then I will get going in, I'm going to say about 1 minute, and we'll talk about what we're doing today, and then we'll get to coding. Okay, so let's get started. First off, I just want to make a couple announcements here. I know that different counties in the area are starting to apply to open up and do different things, allow for different things to happen. I need to look at where we stand in that. One of the things that I'm going to say is that we may not actually come back when everybody else comes back right away. I'm going to be probably a little more cautious than other people, and that is because it is my responsibility to make sure everybody stays safe. That said, I will do it in proper time, and hopefully we'll see each other in not too long. Also, with that said, on Tuesdays, we still have our Zoom classrooms. If you go to Instagram, Facebook, email me directly, or I'm missing one, Twitter. If you go to Twitter as well, you can direct message us on any of those, and it will come to me. And what you do is you ask for the Zoom link. Zoom is a program. You ask for that link, and that will get sent out to you. And then you can join me and you can ask questions about your code. We can talk about what you're doing. We can talk about stuff to maybe work on. I've also given, in the last couple videos, I've given some challenges. We can talk about those. But either way, we can make some good time out of it. The last week and the week before, I actually had nobody. So if you show up, there's a good chance right now that you might be the only one there. I want you guys to take advantage of that. I'm really excited to work with you guys again and excited to see you again. So I definitely want you guys to reach out to me. I also want to let people know, anybody that knows JD, I wanted to let everybody know that JD is not going to be coming back to us and teaching at the Three Creeks Library anymore. He has taken the opportunity to actually move away, and he has moved down to California. I'm not going to say exactly where, but he has moved down to California, so his teaching might be more online now. We might see him in a different fashion, but he will no longer be at the place teaching with us anymore. So we're bummed by that. We really do wish that he would have stayed with us and a lot longer, but he's doing some good things now, so we can't argue that. So we want to wish JD all the luck in the world because he's doing some cool stuff. So let's get today's lesson. Excuse me. Today's lesson is all about what's called normal distribution. So we're going to talk about some math today. So normal distribution is this cool curve that we see, and by understanding this curve and how it works, it actually gives you an advantage in different games. One of the games, or I should say one of the mechanics that games use a lot is dice. And typically normal distribution will show up with two dice. When you have one dice, every time you roll the dice, the chance that you'll get any number should be even with every other number. So if I roll the dice 6 times, there's a good chance that I could get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. If I roll it 12 times, I'll get all those numbers twice. Now, this isn't always the case, but after hundreds and hundreds of rolls, it should all be about equal, or fairly close to equal. However, this is not the case when you put two dice together. When you put 2 dice together, the chance of rolling a 2 is really, really low. The chance of rolling a 12 is also really, really low. But the middle, the chance of rolling a 7 is extremely high. And the reason for this is, and I'll show you, is that there are a greater combination of dice that make 7 versus the combination of dice that make 2 or 12. And sorry, I was just ignoring chat a little bit. Sorry about that. Let's say hi to everybody. Yeah, we got a lot of people in here today. That's awesome. I'm glad to see everybody. This is great. I like seeing a lot more people in here. Hey, everybody. Anyway, let's get back to this. So this is pretty cool. This gives you a chance when you're playing like board games and stuff like that. I don't know if anybody likes like Settlers of Catan. Like rolling a 7, it's more likely you're more likely to roll a 7 with 2 dice, and you can figure out where to put your guys on the board based on that. However, a 12 and a 2, not so great. You're probably not going to want to do that. So this is kind of what we're going to be working with today. But there's another way that we can look at normal distribution, and that's through Plinko. Now, Plinko, what that is that is a game where, and let me pull it up here for you, where you drop a disc at the top, and it bounces, and each time it hits a peg, when it bounces as it goes down, it has a 50-50 chance of going left or right. Now, we can actually show what the chances are of where that Plinko disc is going to land. And let me stop talking and actually pull this up. All right, go full screen on this. This is what we're going to build today. So we have a ball, and then we have these pegs, and as this ball goes from one spot to another, it has a 50-50 chance of going to the left or the right of the peg. Now, we're going to try to figure out what the distribution is of this. So I'm going to let this run for a little bit, I think, and we're going to build it, and we're going to see what the distribution looks like, how often it should go one direction or the other. And I challenge you guys with this, just think right up ahead of time here. Think of what you're seeing. Where do you think the ball will actually land the most times? Well, it's going to land to the left the most. Is it going to land to the right the most? Is it going to land at number 2 spot, number 5 spot? Where do you think it's going to land the most? And we'll figure that out as we get going here. And we can code this to show us what it's going to do. Now, normal distribution in math, we use this a lot. All right, let's see who we got on here today. We got, it says Nate, Lurok, yeah, Washington Crafter. Yeah, we got a lot of people talking today. I'm really happy to see that. I'm glad to see all you guys. That guy got $39,000. I don't know who that guy is, but I wouldn't mind $39,000. That'd be great. I think nobody would mind that. All right, let's get to coding. We're going to code up what we just saw here, that normal distribution game. So go to Scratch. If you don't already have an account, please create an account. You can actually, and you can pause. You should be able to pause this video and then keep going with it, and it should play out all just fine. But create an account, it'll save your work. So let's go in, and first thing we're going to do, I see I'm already signed in. I'm going to come up to create here, and I'm going to click create. And we got Batman Gamer 3000 too. Hey, how's it going? Look at that, we got a lot of people today. I like Batman Gamer. I like Batman. All right, now that we're in here and we are looking at our code set here, everything we have, we are going to start building this out. And the place I'm going to start, I'm going to tell you how we're going to do this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to build, when I showed you that Plinko set, it had a bunch of pegs. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to build those pegs. We're going to put those pegs in the right spot. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to build the tennis ball. So the tennis ball is going to fall from the top to the bottom. However, we need to let it know that when it hits a peg, it has to do something. It's not too bad. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to build the buttons down at the bottom. So the buttons are what make the that red line that was rising. That's going to show us how often the ball lands in that specific bucket. So the button down at the bottom is kind of a bucket. It's a green bucket for the ball to land in. All right. So, one sec here. Let me make sure that I have a teacher on here in chat too, just so you guys can get help. I'm going to ask one of our teachers to get on and help you guys out. Okay. So, again, let's get started here. So the first thing that we need to do is we actually need to pick something to represent the peg. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to get rid of the scratch cat by clicking on the trash can symbol on the scratch cat. So let's get him out of the way, and then I want to pick something that's going to be proper for what we're doing. I want it to look like a peg kind of sticking out of the wall, you know, something that's poking out of the wall. So I'm going to come down here to choose a sprite and click choose a sprite. Now what I used is I liked the ball. I actually liked the yellow ball. So I'm going to pick the ball and bring that in. And there we go. We have it looking fairly well. It's just a little big for me though. So I'm going to actually come down to size and I'm going to change size to 25. I'm going to make it a bit smaller. This makes it just to where I want the tennis ball to be slightly larger than the peg. That way the tennis ball can move through the pegs and not like bounce into a bunch of different pegs that it's not supposed to be bouncing into. All right. Now, what we're going to do is what we do with everything. We need to go to events and we need to grab when green flag is clicked. We do this almost every single time. When green flag is clicked. Now what this does is this starts our program. We want to make sure that we start our program with some sort of action. We do that with the green flag up here. So when our green flag is clicked, this is where our main code is going to run. Now, I'm going to tell you how we're going to do this. We're going to do this by creating both rows and columns. That Plinko board, if you remember, that Plinko board had a... Let me bring it over here. See, that Plinko board had both rows and columns. Now, the rows and columns are not perfectly aligned, but you can see it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows tall. And the columns depend on if it's at the top or the bottom. At the top, it has one down from the top, it has 2 columns, 3 down has 3 columns, and so on and so forth. So we want to make a triangle out of this. And that's not a problem. We can do that, and we're going to do that all through code. This is your first time? That's great. Just follow along with me here. I'll try to explain as best as I can, and we'll figure it out. Oh, I see Miss Megan there. Awesome. So one of our teachers jumped in. Miss Megan can help answer your guys' questions too. I'm not the best at trying to teach and chat right now, so I'll get better at it. Okay. So what we need to start with is, I'm going to tell you how I started. I start at the top. I put one peg at the top, and then I move down, and then I put 2 pegs, and then I move down, and I put the 3 pegs, and I keep going down from top to bottom. So that's where I start. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that this first peg is placed up here at the top. Now we're going to do that by using the motion blocks. So what we do is we click on this blue button here that's called motion. And in this motion area here, we have both X and Y. We want to set our X and Y. Now in the background here, we have a grid. And since we got a couple new people here, I don't mind showing this a little bit. This is good to know. We have a grid, and it's just like geometry or anything you might do in class. We have X and Y. So X it goes side to side, and Y goes top to bottom. So I'm going to leave this up while we're kind of working through this setup here, so you can kind of see how it's moving around. So what we want to do is we want to set this initial peg up high. And I already kind of figured out the numbers, so we're just going to trust me on the numbers. We're going to grab the button over here that says go to X5, Y134. That's what mine says. Yours might say a little bit different. And we're going to say go to X is 0 and Y is 130. Now what this should do is it should center it from side to side, it should center it, but it's going to put it up pretty high for us. How did I put the yellow ball over there? That's a good question. So the yellow ball, what we do is we go to choose a sprite here, right down at the bottom, and we click on choose a sprite, and then the ball is just over at the corner here, just one in from the right hand corner, just at the top. So click on that, and when you click on that, it should put that ball inside there. And for those of you that are new today too, it sounds like we have a couple new people, like I said. One thing I'm going to let you know is that when you're talking and when I'm talking, there's a little bit of a delay. So I will see what you're saying, but I might not answer it for like a minute or so. So don't stress too much. I'll get to it. It's just what I'm saying now, I'm listening to in my ears. And it's about a 30 to 40 second delay right now. I think it's about a 30-second delay. Okay. So one thing we want to make sure of too is when we're putting in this code here, make sure that you look up in the top corner where our code's at. Look at the top corner and make sure that the image you see there is that sprite that we're working with. All right. So now that we have these two pieces of code, what's kind of cool about this is I can drag this sprite anywhere inside the stage. And when I press the green flag, it's always going to go back up to the top. And that's because we have when green flag is clicked and go to x equals 0 and y equals 130. All right. Now, one of the things that we do, and I'm going to teach you guys a new tactic. I know a lot of my students, I don't think we've taught you this yet, but this is kind of cool. What it is it's going to be repeat blocks, but we're going to put one repeat block inside another repeat block. So what it's going to do is it's going to repeat the big block a certain amount of times, but each time it repeats the big block, it's going to repeat the small block as well. So let's say that our big block, we say repeat twice, and the small block inside is 4. What that's actually going to do is it's going to do the small thing inside a total of 8 times, because it's going to repeat the big block twice with the 4 inside. So it'll do the first one, it'll go in, it'll do 4, and then it'll come all the way back around and it'll do 4 more. So we use this as a multiplication method. And what we're going to do with this is how we decide how to make our rows and columns. And hopefully this will become a little more apparent to you as we start to do it. I know that might be confusing. That's okay. I like to do a lot of the teaching by trying to explain first, but then we're going to do it and we're going to see how it works, and hopefully it'll start to make more sense. So I'll just give you guys some walkthrough on this. I'm not going to try to explain it too much because, like I said, I think proof is in the pudding. Like, it's nice to see it. So I'm going to say the first thing we're going to do is we need to make a variable. We're going to make actually 2 variables. We're going to make one called row and one called column. And this is going to help us remember how many rows and how many columns we've created at any given time. Because like I said, we have to create a bunch of them to make all those different pegs. And I hope you guys feel free, if I answer a question that you have asked and you're still not getting it, don't hesitate to keep asking that question. That's why we're here. We want to be sure that we're helping you out. So I hope that you got that sprite added. But if I didn't give you the right answer, go ahead and just keep asking. It's okay. Questions are good. Okay. So to get back to our code here, let's go to variables. And in variables, we're going to make a variable. So it's just this button up at the top here, make a variable. We can make this for all sprites. There's 2 click boxes here for all sprites or just for this sprite. For all sprites should be fine. And we're going to name one of them row. Do not click cloud variable storage if you have it. We don't need that. And then press OK. Now we're going to come back and we're going to do one more. We're going to make a variable again. So click this button. And we're going to call this one column. Or you can use col, C-O-L. A lot of people abbreviate column to C-O-L. Once again, for all sprites, and click OK. Great. Now when we create these variables, you'll see up in our stage here, it is keeping track of them for us. So that is good. But the one thing we need to do is when we start the program, we actually need to tell it that we want to start our row at 0. We need to reset our row to be 0. So let's grab in our variables section here, there's set, mine says column to 0. Yours may say something different, but the keyword there is set. Let's grab set and we're gonna set row to 0. So if you click on this arrow here, there's kind of a box in the middle. If you click on that arrow, you can change it from column to row. And we're going to set row to 0. Now, this is probably going to be, I know I've explained this to some of my previous students, but we have new ones. One of the things we do with computer science, and Scratch doesn't always do it, but I'm almost always going to do it, is in computer science or coding, you actually start counting from 0. We don't start counting from 1. We start counting from 0. 0 is a number to us. It is weirdly neither a positive nor a negative number. In theory, it's not a positive or a negative number. To the computer, it considers it one or the other. But when we start counting, we start at 0. So we go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if we have 5 things, it's going to only show 4. So it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's kind of goofy, but it's how we do it. Okay, so now that we have our row set to 0, I'm going to tell you we want to make 5 rows. So what we're going to do is we're going to repeat until we've gained 5 rows. So let's go to control. And in control, we're going to grab the repeat 10 here. But we don't want to just tell it repeat 5 rows. We want it to know when it's hit 5 rows because we're keeping track of that here. Our rows are set to 0. We're going to increase those as we create more rows. So we want to keep track of it. So we're going to use the variable that we created. So let's go back to variables. And you have these pills here. You have column, my variable, and row. We're going to grab row, grab that pill, and just drag it out. Don't put it in anything yet, but drag it out and drop it kind of in the middle of our canvas here. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is we need to compare this to how many rows we want. Now the cool part about this is we can make it to where it is 4 rows, we can make it to where it is 5 rows, and it's all dependent on what we're going to do right here. So we're going to go to operators, that's the green, and in operators we're going to pick this, I like to call it the rupee looking shape. It has an equal sign in it. Go ahead and drag that out and just drop it in your canvas anywhere as well. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is combine these a little bit. So, and oh, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I grabbed the repeat 10, and it's just habit. We use repeat a lot. Take this, just grab the repeat 10 and drag this to the side. We don't want repeat 10. We want repeat until. So go back to control and grab, it's down a little bit farther. It says repeat until. That's my fault. Sorry about that, guys. Habit. Okay. Now we can combine all this. Now it makes more sense because that wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have given us the right thing. So we're going to combine all this. Let me zoom in a little bit for you here. We're going to take row and we're going to drag row, this pill, into the first section of the equal sign. And then we're going to set the second section to 5. We're going to type in 5. So it'll say row equals 5. And then all of this will drop into the repeat until. So that'll say we want to repeat until we have 5 rows. So we're going to keep track of how many rows we have in this variable. We're going to store that number. When that number hits 5, we're done. We're not storing anymore. Now we're going to do something here, and we're not going to use it right away, but you'll see it used in a minute. Well, in about 20 minutes here. But we're going to also set our column number. But we set our column number inside our repeat until, because each time we want our column to reset, because in each row we have a different number of columns. So the top only has 1, the next only has 2, the next has 3, the next has 4. So we have to reset the columns for each row. So let's go to variables. And in variables, we're going to grab mine already says set column to 0. And we're going to drag this out, and we're going to put this right inside the repeat until. And it should just be fine, set column to 0. That should be perfectly acceptable code. I'll give you guys just 1 second here. And again, please let us know if you have any questions. We're more than happy to answer. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start creating what's called clones of ourselves. So clones of ourselves are kind of neat. This allows us to take this ball sprite that we have, and we can use it multiple times in a game. But what we're doing is we're creating a clone of it and then using it. So we don't actually have to add, if we want to create 20 different things, we don't have to add the sprite 20 times. We can add it once and then create a clone of it, and then we can make that clone do different things. So we're going to come in and we're going to go to control. And in control, yes, and you should like the video. I agree with that statement there, Larock. That's correct. You should always like these videos. All right, let's go to control. And in control, we have at the very bottom, create a clone of myself. And we're going to drag that in and put it right below the set column to 0. So you still want it inside this repeat until. Now what this is going to do is this is going to create a clone right here. We won't see it. If I were to start this right now, we're not going to see any clones because they're all just showing up here. But if I kind of move them around, you can see it's creating them. And it's kind of hard to move these, but that's okay. Oh, and there we go. Sorry, I just had it just freeze up on me there for a second. That's okay. Hold on. I got to hold on. Are you guys doing okay, or you need some help? Feel free to ask questions. Don't hesitate. I know it's tough to do this and type and do this and type, so it's okay. It's perfectly acceptable. And again, if you're having issues with this, these videos are always available to watch later on. And on Tuesdays, I'm available, and you can hop on a Zoom classroom with me, and I can totally help you out with this too. So if something's not quite working right, that's okay. It's perfectly acceptable to not get everything right the first time. I never do. I write code all the time. This is what I do for my job, and I never get it right the first time. I don't know a coder that does. It's a good question. Where's the set column to 0? So if you go down to variables, and in variables, we have set column to 0. Set is our first one. So you look at that keyword because the center here is actually changeable. So yours may not be, yours might be call or column, but there is the ability to change what that middle is. It's a good question. All right. So I'm going to keep going, and that's okay if you're behind. Keep asking. Miss Megan's here too. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we need to change our location. What we're going to do is each time we create a new row, we need to move that row down a little bit. So how we're going to do this is just go to motion, and this is going to be really simple. We're going to change, because if you look on our graph here, we have X and Y. We're just going to change our Y location. So we're just going to shift it down in the Y location. just a little bit each time, not very far. So what we need to do is let's look for change y by, and mine says 10, change y by 10. You're going to drag this out, and you're going to drop that right below create clone of myself. And what we're going to do is we want to change y, and we're going to put -50. And we're doing negative because we're moving down. If we were moving up, we would do positive, because y is negatives at the bottom, positives at the top for y. Okay. So let's see what this does. I'm going to just press the green flag here and let's see what it does. Ah, look at that. We actually get a change in what we're doing. It now creates the pegs, but kind of going down each time. This is getting close, but you'll notice that when I showed you guys what we were doing, it didn't go straight down. They were all offset. And the reason they're offset is to create a triangle look. And that's so that when the ball bounces off of one, it's going to line up with another one. That's why they're offset. So the ball keeps lining up back and forth with a new peg or a new set of pegs. So what we need to do is we need to kind of make these to where when it moves down, it's kind of shifting everything sideways just a little bit. Now, one of the things that we're going to do here is we're going to use math to try to figure out how far to shift it, and we're going to use that based on what row it's set to. So the first thing we need to do is we need to add 1 to our row, because each time we've created a new clone, that row is going to be changed, because the new clone is going to go on the new row. So what we're going to do is right below change y by 50, we need to come back down to variables. That's our orange section here. And we need to grab change, and mine says column by 1. Yours might say something different. But the key word here is change. We don't want set. Don't use set. This is a very, very, very common mistake. Don't use set. Use change. And what this means is change, and I'm going to drag this out so I can change it. Change my row by 1. That change row by 1 means we're adding 1 to the row. So each time this code runs, it's going to add it to it. So if I keep clicking on this, you'll see up in the top corner here, every time I click on this and run this little piece of code, it adds 1 to my row. Now, if we wanted to subtract from it, I could change it by -1, and that's going to drop it. But we don't want that. We want it to be +1. So I want to change row by 1. This lets us know we're on the next peg down. So we need to do a shift. And we're going to do that shift on the X scale. That's to the left to right here. And the way I'm going to do it, and you could do it either way, left or right, it doesn't really matter. But I'm going to show you how to do it to the left side. We're going to change it by -40 for each row we go down. So this is going to require a little bit of math from us. Let's go ahead and pull the blocks out that we need. We're not going to put them together yet. We're just going to pull them out and set them out here. And then we'll start to put them together and we'll figure out how they fit together. So the first block we need is we're going to do set x to a number. All right. So let's go to motion. And in motion, we're going to grab the set x to. So not change x, but set x to 0 is what mine says. Let's pull that out. The next thing we're going to need is we're going to need our variable row. So let's go to variables. And you're going to grab the pill shape here. And let's grab row. Let's drag that out and drop it out here. And then the next thing we're going to do is we need a multiplication. And multiplication's in operators. That's in the green section. So click on the green section and grab a multiplication. It's the third from the top. Let's just drag these out. Let's make sure that we have those. All right, we're hearing from Nate. We're hearing from Lurock, Washington Crafter, Pearson Kaizo. I don't remember what your username is. Jackson Ohana and Batman Gamer. How's everybody else doing? Everybody doing well? Keeping up? I want to hear from you a little bit. I want to make sure that you guys are doing great. And while you're answering me, I will take a drink of water. So 1 second here. All right. I see you guys out there, but you're quiet. That's okay. You guys are okay. If you guys are good, that's fine. I just want to make sure that everybody gets the chance to ask questions if they have them. Okay. So now that we have these all set out to the side here, I got my set x to 0. I have my row, and I have my multiplication. We need to combine these together and combine them right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this row pill, and I'm going to drop it into the second side of our multiplication. That's good, Nate. Awesome. Washington Crafter, good. All right. So now that we have row in our second section here, the first section, just trust me on the number. I kind of already figured it out. I played with it a little bit already to see what looked good, and I found that -40 looks good. Oh, we got two of the Jackson names on there. All right. That threw me off for a second. I wasn't expecting that. All right, so we have -40 times row. Now, watch what this does. Well, hold on 1 sec. I should say, let's finish this. I'm getting excited. All right, we're going to drop this into the set x to 40. So what this does is for each row, it's going to give us a new x location based on our row. So as we go down, it's going to shift all of them sideways. So let's drop this in right below change row by 1. You see why we got to change the row first is because we're going to multiply using whatever that row number is. So we need to kind of know where it's supposed to be. All right, now if we look here, all of these were down in a straight line. But if we've done this right, when I hit the green flag now, look at that, they all shift to the side. So this is starting to build our pyramid. We're building the left side of our pyramid right now. And just looking at the time, and we got new people on here today, and I'm more than happy to go slower, which is great. I don't think we're going to get through all of this today. So what we'll probably do is we'll probably finish the pegs here. And let me look at my notes. Let me see what we have. I think we're going to finish the pegs, and we'll probably do the tennis ball. We'll probably start the tennis ball, but we won't finish it. And then we'll finish the rest of this next week, just to let you guys know where we're standing as far as time goes. Okay, so now we're building that left side of the pyramid. It looks good. It's as we need it. It's nice and straight, going down at a diagonal. We need to put the rest of the pegs in here, though. We need to finish filling out this pyramid so that we get the right side and the center as well. So this is where we get to do a loop inside a loop. These are cool. We use these on all sorts of different stuff, and I really enjoy doing this. And it's a little bit tricky, but we'll kind of see how it starts to build. What we're going to do is we're going to create columns in here that are equal to essentially the number of rows we're on. So when we come down to this second row here, we're going to create one extra column, because we're already creating one of the columns, so we just need to create one extra. Then when we get down to the third here, we have to create 2 extra. Now remember I said that we start counting at 0, so this is where it gets a little bit funny, but just trust me on the logic, on the math here. It's going to work out, but we're going to repeat until our column is equal to our row number. So we're going to change our column number each time, but we also need to check and make sure that it's equal to what row number we're on. Okay, so what we need to do is let's go back to control. And in control, down about 3/4 of the way down, we need to grab a repeat until. And we're going to drag the repeat until right below the set x to -40 times row. Okay. Like I said, what we're going to do is we're going to repeat how many times we're creating a new peg until we're equal to what row we're on. So let's come down and let's grab our variables for that. So we're going to go to my variables, or variables, excuse me. We're going to grab columns. We're going to grab that variable, and we're going to grab row. Take these two pills and just drag them out into the canvas here. Now that we have that, like I said, we want to figure out when they're equal to each other. Mathematical operators are in the operators section. So let's click on operators. And then about, what is that, 5, 6, 7, 8 down, we have an equal sign. Let's grab the equal sign. And it doesn't matter which order you put it in, but drag column into one and row into the other side of that equal sign. And once you have these together, go ahead and drag them into the repeat until. All right, and we want it to look like this here. Repeat until column is equal to row. I'll give you guys a second there. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're kind of do what we've already been doing. We need to create a clone because we're creating more pegs. We need to create more clones of that peg to have it show up more often. And what that means is we go back to control. And in control, we're going to go to the bottom of control and grab create a clone of myself. Now, if I press the green flag here, you don't have to do it. It is going to do this. Man, create clone is definitely acting up today. Mine just froze for a second. It'll come back. But what this is doing is it's creating that, still creating that slope for me, but all the clones that it's creating that are extra, it's putting them off to the side. Oh, nope, that's actually just it's a bug with where our code's at right now. That's okay. All right. So that is just creating a lot of clones, but it's not doing much with them. Oh, and I know why it's doing that. It was actually creating a ton of clones right there because we hadn't changed what our column number was. So that was a bug. It shouldn't do that in a minute. But what we need to do, and you'll see why that bug was there, is each time we create a clone, we also need to tell it that it created a new column. And how we're doing that is by saving it to our column variable here. Just like we had change row by 1, we need to change our column by 1. So let's go to variables, down in the orange here. And we're going to grab, mine says change column by 1. We're going to drag that out and we're going to drop that right below our create clone of myself. There we go. Once we do that, now you can see the bug has been fixed. I was doing that incorrectly, but I've created this slope. But in this slope here is where all of my extra clones are being kept. So they're actually not going anywhere. They're just still in that diagonal line. Well, we don't want them to be in that diagonal line. We want them to shift sideways. We want them to create the rest of the pyramid. And it's not doing that right now. It's just still creating that one left-hand side. So since we want them to shift to the side, we started on the left, we want them to shift to the right, we are going to change our X by a certain amount. So let's go to motion. And in motion, we're going to grab change X, and mine says by 10. And let's drop that right below the change column by 1. But in the change column, or change X by 10, excuse me, change X by 10, yeah. We're going to change this to 80. Instead of 10, we wanted that to be 80. So change X by 80. Now, if we press that green flag button, look at that. We should get a nice pyramid. Nice pyramid of dots. Or pegs. You know what I didn't do, and I probably should do because it's good practice, is I'm going to come down here to my sprite, and where it says ball, it's not a ball. In my program here, it's not a ball, it's a peg. So I'm going to change that to peg. I'm going to rename my sprite. So it says peg. Okay. Now, I want you guys to, speak up a little bit here. Let me know, are you getting this nice, neat triangle? Are we seeing it? And I'm going to change my background here. Change the stage backdrop. I'm going to get rid of that one I was using so it's nice and just plain white, so there's some contrast there. Are you guys seeing that nice, clean triangle? And we got lots of triangles within the triangle, right? You didn't get a triangle. Oh man. What shape did you get? And we don't have too long left on today's video. So this is where if you're getting bugs, I'm going to tell you a couple of things. There's the first thing to do is just pause this video later and read through my code and read through yours really slowly. And the key here is to be careful with the words, because things like set and change mean something very, very different in Scratch. The syntax counts. What is being said counts. So that might be where the problem is, and that's perfectly okay. I do that all the time. You saw me do it earlier. I should have grabbed a repeat until, and I only grabbed a repeat. Was the wrong thing to do. It happens all the time. Don't worry about it. But if you still get bugs, on Tuesday, we will post to Instagram and Facebook and all those, saying that hey, message us and we'll send you the link to the Zoom classroom. Do that and come into the Zoom classroom and I'll help you fix the bug. I'm more than happy to do that. You get a diagonal line going right. Let's keep going. You should come see me on Tuesday. You should come to the Zoom classroom on Tuesday. I just want to see what your code's doing. I'm kind of curious now what you did. I always get interested when it goes a completely different direction. And my guess is that your change y by, and mine says negative 50. My guess is that yours is 50. No, that wouldn't be, excuse me, it would be set x to negative 40 times row. My guess is actually the bug's right there. I changed my mind. I'm wondering if you're doing positive 40. That's my, oh, you fixed it. Good. I'm glad. When people have bugs, it always gets my brain spinning real quick. I like bugs. They're fun to fix. Oh, didn't put a create clone. Okay, well, good catch. Okay, so let's keep going here. We're gonna do the ball next. We're going to just make it. We're gonna make it fall. We're not gonna make it run into any pegs. Let's see how are we looking on time. Well, how long have we been going? 48 minutes ago. Yeah. So let's get this falling. We're not going to make it run into the pegs. Next week, we'll make it start to bounce off the pegs. I put a lot of code into the bounce because I wanted to make it actually look like a bounce. So it's a little more fun, I guess. We don't really need to do that, but it's kind of nice to have it look well. Look like it's we've spent time on it. So we're just going to make it fall, and then we're going to stop there for the night, and then we'll finish next week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to go choose a sprite. Let's click on choose a sprite, and I'm going to scroll through here, and it was called, I think it's just called tennis ball. Yep, there we go. Right there. These are in alphabetical order, so Scroll down to the T section and I got tennis ball. I'm going to use tennis ball. And we're going to bring that in. Now you'll notice that the code we've been writing disappeared. And that's because that code was in PEG. That's the code that tells our PEG what to do. Our tennis ball, you see how up in the top corner here that changed. Tennis ball has a different set of codes. So we're going to use this canvas to create code specifically for our tennis ball to use. Okay, now, as we did with the PEG, we need to let the tennis ball know that when the program starts, it has to start doing some stuff. So let's go to events, and in events, we're going to grab when green flag is clicked. And this tells us that, hey, the program started, let's start to do something. Now what we're going to do is we want this to come up above the first peg. We want it to be right above the first peg. So we're going to go to motion. And in motion, we're going to grab the go to X and Y. So that is the fifth one down. Go to X and Y and put that right below when green flag is clicked. And we want this to center. So since we want it to center from left to right, we want that to be 0. X is going to be 0. But we want it to be above the peg. We put the peg, if I remember correctly, at 160. So let's put this at 170. We're going to put it just slightly above the peg. So that should, when I click on that, it runs the code for just the ball. It's going to, there we go, be right above. So it's not quite off the screen, but it's starting to fall from the top of the screen. All right, now this is a tricky thing. When we're moving things around, they have directions. Like when we have the scratch cat in here, it's facing a direction. If I want it to face up, it turns and faces up. But here's what's tough. With a ball, it's hard to know what direction a ball is facing. Mainly because a ball doesn't really have directions. If you think about it, no matter where you are on the ball, it's always the top or always the bottom. It's really tough. It's kind of like the Earth. If you go and stand on Antarctica, you could argue that you're standing on the top of the Earth, but if you stand on the equator, you could also argue you're standing on the top of the Earth because it's always below you. So we need to focus on this. When we're dropping the ball here, we need to make it sure it always falls going down. We need to make sure that the ball is actually moving in the correct direction. And in here we have direction, and that moves the ball around. Now you'll see, we can see our sprite moves around, and I use a tennis ball so it's a little more obvious. But if I were to tell the tennis ball to move and it's facing 90 degrees, it's going to move off the right side of the screen. We don't want that though. We want the ball to fall downward. So if I move this arrow to make it fall downward, you'll notice that it's actually straight down is 180 degrees. So we need to tell our program to turn the ball 180 degrees or to 180 degrees. So we're going to use the block in motion, go to the blue motion blocks, and there's point in direction, and currently it says 90. Let's grab point in direction though and drag it in, and we're going to change this to 180. So it's pointing straight down. That means that when we move the ball, it's going to move down. This is very important. Like I said, with a cat or a person or something like that, it's very clear which direction they're going based on where they're facing. With a ball, it is not clear what direction it's going, so we have to be very sure that we set this. We have to be a little more picky when we're working with a ball. All right, and now what we're going to do, this is where we're going to end it tonight, is we're going to just make the ball fall. We're not going to make it run into anything. It is just going to continue to fall. It's not going to bounce off of anything. It's not going to do anything special. It's just going to fall from the top to the bottom. We will start the code next time that'll make it bounce off the pegs. So when do we want the ball to fall? Well, we want it to fall forever. We always want it to keep falling. Gravity always works. It never goes away. So let's go to control. And in control, we have a block called forever. Let's drag in forever. And now what we're going to do is go back to motion. And in motion, we're going to grab the move 10 steps, pull that in, but we're going to change that 10 to 2. So we're going to make it move 2 steps forever. And since we are we're moving in the top to bottom direction, it should, or we're moving in 180 degrees, it should fall from top to bottom direction. And if we click the green flag, sure enough, it does. Now it's just going to fall to the bottom. It's going to get stuck there. It's not going to do anything. But this sets us up for next week. We're going to keep working on this next week. I think we're doing good. You guys have been very patient. You guys have been doing well. I'm glad everybody's running real well. Been very communicative. I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. I like seeing more people on today. I'm really excited to see more people. So we're gonna stop here. I gotta say, we want these videos to get out there. Get your friends coming. We want to teach everybody to code. I don't expect everybody to grow up to be like me and be a computer scientist, but code literacy is really good. What you're doing right now is we're learning a little bit of math. We're learning literacy in general. But when you guys get older, a lot of jobs are actually going to require you to know how to code just a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. Jobs that right now, my generation doesn't have to use code, your generation probably will. So it's good to learn, it's good to know, and I hope you guys have fun. We'll definitely get back to, today I wanted it to be more about math, but we'll get back to how to design some game things. We did how to create a bag in a game last week so you could collect items and put it in a bag. But go ahead, like this video. I would really appreciate that. Feel free to share this video with anybody. And also, if you're new here, go ahead and click that subscribe button. And then if you hit the bell icon with the subscribe button, it'll actually tell you when we're streaming. So when I set a stream up or when I put up a new video, it'll notify you and let you just let you know that it's happening. So please, come hang out with us again. And Tuesday, send me a message if you guys want to be on the classroom. Not to point out any students, but Pierce and Kaizo, I expect to see you guys here soon. I know you guys are always working on some sort of project. Let's see what you guys have going, and especially considering that I've given some let's call it extra credit assignments lately. I want to see what you guys are up to. Same with Bailey. Let's come and hang out with me on Tuesdays. Let's get some code going. And with that said, I think I'm going to end it there. I think we did good today, and I appreciate everybody for showing up. And those of you who are new, I think you did an excellent job keeping up, and keep with it. All right. With that said, I am going to say good night, and, keep away from everybody, wash your hands, stay safe, stay healthy, and I will talk to you guys very soon. All right. See you guys later.